We're back again for another episode of Lights, Camera, Keco, the Ben Thomas Show Collects. We are here for a fun show. It's going to be great, guys. We're going to talk about a lot of different things. We're going to talk about Star Wars Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary. Clearly, this show is not over. This party is far from over. And we got to talk about, of course, Iron Man, iconic Iron Man. We got to talk about philosophy topics that we always talk about. Casca Reeves is actually low stock. Maybe a little bit of Mando Season 3 talk in there. Maybe a special Cuban agent from Mr. Keco that we need to talk about. And yeah, guys, it's going to be a lot of fun topics on the horizon. So please stay tuned for all the good fun. And so sorry for being delayed by about 5 minutes. I was running a little bit behind, had some technical issues, but we are here and ready to go. That said, let's address this beautiful Avengers level panel. Mr. Ben Thomas, the Ben Thomas Show. Bro, I am so excited for you because the last time you were here, you just got 1K subscribers. Now you're at 1.5K subscribers. I saw today. So you were growing very quickly. So I want to give you an applause because
thank you, good
sir. You absolutely deserve it, sir. So how you doing, man?
Good. I mean, just to the subscribers, I just appreciate everybody still watching the channel and seeming to enjoy it and everything, and so much support from the community and all of the fellow streamers out there that keep bringing me back on and letting me talk and, you know, hang out. So definitely appreciate it. Today was a good day. I picked up a grail of mine. I've wanted this figure for a pretty long time now. I think 2017 was when it came out. It is the Netflix.
Oh, okay. You're getting soloed, Ben.
Yes, sir. So dude, I haven't even got it out of the box yet, other than like I pulled it out at the lady's house, made sure there was no leather or pleather flaking, no like major issues at all. For the age of the figure, the head sculpt's pretty banger. Like it's good. It's
Ben,
good.
You never pull it out at the lady's house, bro. You never pull it out.
I kept my ring on.
Yeah, you keep the ring on, bro. You keep the ring on. Right. But that dude, so did you pay a good price for it, Ben? Is the question.
So based on what I could find Canadian prices, I definitely did.
Okay.
Half the reason I needed to see it kind of in person, because I got it for $500 Canadian, which would be probably in the 380 range American, where I'm looking at eBay, I'm seeing it for Canadian, like I think $1,100 most places. The lowest I could find it was about $700 previously. So it had been out of my range for a while, but I opened up my bank account today, and for whatever reason, the Canadian government sent me $320. So I was like that much closer, and I was like, heck yeah, I'm just going to buy it.
That's how nice everyone is in Canada. They're like, you know what? It's fucking Friday. Here's $300.
Right.
That's how it goes.
It made for a very good day, but I didn't know if I'd make it to the stream, so thanks for letting me come on kind of at the very last minute. I got one more thing to show you guys.
Yeah, man, sure.
Because I was in Vegas for the very first time ever, and I found this store called Calfano. And this is essentially a Predator, of course, made with 100% recycled metal artwork, and it's like heavy as hell. Nice. Really, really cool. You can see like nails
that have been across the border.
You're not wrong. I smuggled it into my backpack and got it across, and they didn't say anything. So it was bubble.
You were worried about Scorpion, Will.
I know. I was so worried about Scorpion getting to the airport, bro.
I mean, this thing is like, it's absolutely crazy. But like, if you see it, like it's made with like different screws and melted down nails and like crazy. So
right.
I had to have something, and of course, you know, like Shauna, she brought a bunch of shoes back with her and everything, and I brought this badass Predator metal statue. So
that's pretty good.
Good indication of my very first trip to Las Vegas. And by the way, even though they call it Sin City, I didn't see that much sin there. I've seen more on Bourbon Street in New Orleans than in Las Vegas.
How many sins did you commit, though, Ben, is the question.
I committed no sins. I was very good. I only spent $60 American, yes.
That's barely a sin. So, so you're fine. Yeah, you're fine. Bro.
My wife, being from Louisiana, can vouch for New Orleans being a hellhole. So
really, it's that bad?
Keco? Bourbon Street, it's crazy.
I mean, the French Quarter, and especially during Mardi Gras, y'all better look out.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm a Saints fan, and I've always wanted to go to New Orleans, but now I'm afraid to go because Keco is, telling me that it's not the best place to be. But I guess it depends on the time you're there. If it's Mardi Gras or whatever, maybe it's a little bit different. Mm-hmm. But
just know what you're getting into.
Exactly. Thank you so much for joining, Ben. Happy to have you, bro. Always happy to host you and have you on the show, man. You are awesome. So, guys, check out the Ben Thomas Show. Of course, we'll go over that at the end as well, but lots of great content over there. Mr. Keco, my regular co-host for the evening. How are you doing in Nashville, Tennessee? Hopefully, well, not Nashville, but in Tennessee. How are the tornadoes over there? Is life good in Tennessee right now?
Life is great, as Drake would say. Life is good. So
Draco would say that.
I said Drake.
Oh, I
from
thought you said
Drake and Future.
Drago. I was like, well, Drago would
Drago
too.
would.
Yeah, yeah,
But
because he
yeah,
was very
Drake,
happy, very
life is good.
positive.
He's a very positive soul. But
Yeah.
right now we're sitting around 72, zero humidity, sun, cut the grass today, beautiful, looking good. So other than that, and drum roll, no flat tires today. And we are here.
Nice. You get an
So,
applause.
Thanks for having me back.
Yeah. Always happy to have you, Keco. Always happy to have you, bro. And yeah, man, I thought you said Drago, and I was like, Drago talks to you? He didn't talk to me at all.
He
So,
talks
yeah.
more than Grogu.
Yeah, he pretty much does, bro. You need to get Drago like an IG-12 and get him to just like ride around in that thing. I think he would do that.
I am his IG-12. I just walk around with him and show him
Yeah.
off to people. Oh, look, guys, look. Isn't he cute?
By the way,
Isn't he
Keco, I talked to Amy about the Drago incident where he wouldn't let her get close to you, and he was very
Oh,
jealous.
yeah, that one.
He was a jealous ween. So yeah, he was. So but happy to have you, man, as always, guys. So one thing, I don't know, there's a quick little like PSA before we get started. So I don't know, I'm sure most people in the community know about toy anxiety. Toy Anxiety is a really great place because they have a lot of accessories that they part figures out, whether it be Hot Toys or third party or 3.0 or whatever, right? They part figures out. And I've been waiting for the longest time for the Shang-Chi stuff to drop because I was like, you know what? My Shang-Chi had that slight scratch on the face, on the cheek, right? And one of my, the forearms with the rings came loose. So I was just waiting. And I checked today and I was like, oh, Shang-Chi came in stock. And Shang-Chi, the head and the arms are coming home. So thank you to Toy Anxiety because without them, what would we do, guys? Yeah, what would we do? Like they have so many good things for great prices. They sell the bases individually, like hands, wrist pegs.
Are you still
like
looking for a new Mando helmet for me? Because I'm still looking for the chrome.
Oh no, was I supposed? I've stopped. I didn't know I was looking for you, but I will look for you. If you're tasking me with the job, I will look.
Yes, because I'm checking eBay daily and I still have not found one.
I think I paid like $60 to $80 for mine. I forget what I paid. Yeah, 65 or something.
Yeah, I know
like
it's
that.
gonna be a premium, but I did get from Etsy yesterday the Bo-Katan shoulder pauldron.
Oh, nice. Okay. Well, there's going to be a 2.0 anyway. So, but you're going to wait.
That's
Our
buddy,
right,
the
exactly.
Oxfather from Collecting Weekly, has been 3D printing them for people. So the shoulder pauldron as well as the little one for Grogu. He's been doing pretty well with that.
Yeah,
do pretty well with that. So
I think so too. Well, I do got one question I want to answer real quick. So, Mr. Musashi asked, Toys Era Joel on 1/6 kit. The code, you can use the code WillFox on 1/6 kit, and it's $10 off your order. So, if you're going to order from him, you can use that. I don't have a specific one for Joel, but that one should work because I tried it earlier today and it did work. That said, let's address the chat real quick, guys, and get into our first topic. I don't want to waste too much time. Daniel said, hell yeah to Daniel. Thank you so much for joining. Mr. Keco is back officially. No flat tires today. Rome Moreno, what up? What up, Rome Moreno? Rome Moreno has some awesome statues. God of War, just like me. I love Rome Moreno. Houndick, let's go. Love the username, by the way. Let's see. Updated head sculpt towards era looks better. It does, Houndick. It does, and we're going to talk about it. What's up, everyone? Any prediction for May the 4th? We're going to talk about that, actually. So, King Killer, you're leading us into one of our topics. Natalie G, Keco, got to let us know what you landed on for your future state display. Yeah. Keco is still deciding. I think he's still undecided as far as I'm aware. But I love the video, by the way, Keco. It was pretty exceptional. So Natalie G also said, Will's review of his new mod space has really got me thinking. Hey, Natalie, I try. It was really, these are really, really nice. When I got these, they're actually, they exceeded my expectations. I've absolutely loved them. So 12-inch Moose Stream. Josh, McCoy Culture. We got to get Josh on the show again sometime soon. How's it going, Josh? Good to have you. Modular case would be really dope. Keco, but that garage type case was looking dope. Just finished the video. It did look really good, and Keco does not give himself enough credit because he said he's not handy, but he built those whole cases. So he also fixed the shower curtain bed and when I stayed there.
I heard that. Yeah, that's interesting. Two really tall dudes
really
trying to fix a shower curtain is probably hilarious.
Keco's evolving. Yeah.
Two tall guys walk into a bathroom.
Yeah, pretty much that's what happened. And then we fixed. I just held it, and Keco, fixed the shower curtain. So Ryan Smith, K Nui is here as well. Thalia Meyer, good to see you, Thalia, fellow Loki fan. FBJ, Community Arcade, Joker J. This is always the username. He, she, we, big boobs. Yo, Mia Goth and Blade. Yeah, I love the avatar, and yeah, Mia Goth and Blade. That's gonna be pretty cool. She's always in like the fun films like that, the interesting ones. Hey everyone, good to see you, Jonathan. Blurred Dad Life is here. Lane Kramer. Will, you don't need that Praetorian Double Blade anymore. You can send it to me. Lane, I already commented today, bro, to tell you what was going on. Gina B Collecting is here. Jose Hernandez. I'm going to ignore Riley because he's talking about the Batman. So He's blowing up our chat for no reason because Keco and I know it's mid, so no point in investing it too much further. No, it's fine. It's a good movie. The Houndic, the feeling of getting a figure you've been looking for years unmatched. Absolutely. Caesar De Leon, hey guys, excited for another live stream regarding the Costco Reeves low stock. It's actually back to normal. Well, we're gonna check because this morning it was low stock, so that's gonna ruin our whole topic. If it is, it's still fun to talk about her. We'll talk about her nonetheless because she is showing up. There's not really a spoiler, but she's around. King Killer, what's up, everyone? Any prediction? I think we talked about that. So guys, I'll try to address some of the comments as we go, but since we have so many topics to get through, I don't want to waste too much more time, but thank you so much for engaging in the chat. But I want to get started on our first topic of the evening. And really, we want to keep the Star Wars trend going because Star Wars is very hot right now. And I want to bring up the idea of future 40th Return of the Jedi releases because we got the news, obviously. We got a Darth Vader coming. Everyone's really excited about it. A lot of people consider it the iconic Darth Vader. But what else is on the horizon? Because I think this is the question that a lot of collectors are asking themselves. What else can I look forward to from this Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary line? So I want to raise this question to the panel, and I want to raise it to the chat as well. Chat, let us know what you think is coming from Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary, what you hope is coming from Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary. I want to ask Mr. Keco first. Keco, what do you think is on the horizon for collectors? What can we look forward to from this line? Because there is a lot of options here.
Correct. It's one of the most iconic films of all time. And I think you need to set yourself up for disappointment because I don't think that they're going to give everybody everything that they want. The thing about Return of the Jedi that I think is unique is that it is the most creature-filled movie in the franchise. I mean, they just went balls to the wall in Jabba's palace, and for the first time, you just kind of say, wow, this really is on another planet, and it's fantastic. We got the Cantina back in A New Hope, and we thought that was cool. But when you walked into Jabba's palace, I'll never forget, I collected the Star Wars Decipher, Wizard of the Coast cards, whatever they were, the customizable card game. And when the Jabba's Palace expansion set came out, it literally tripled the number of alien cards that they had in there just because of how many creatures were in there. But there's so many cool characters that people loved. If you go back to the Kenner days, I mean, they probably did 10 to 12 different, Return of the Jedi alien figures from Jabba's palace. I don't think we can be expecting that from Hot Toys because they are so niche, those characters. I don't think we're going to see a Jabba. I just think that's too big of a task, especially when the Sideshow one is still sitting in stock. I think that they can look to see that that's probably not something that they want to put a lot of effort into. The barking spot is calling me. I'll call them back later.
So you don't think a power pose, Keco, would be possible?
Of Jabba?
Yeah, Jabba. Maybe a power pose.
Maybe, but I don't know because they've been shipping out these big vehicles that I never thought they were going to do again. So
yeah,
they could. There's a lot of improvements that need to be made to the Sideshow Jabba for sure. That they definitely could. I just don't see that one. What I think is most likely that we've already seen, obviously, this Vader, we've seen the C-3PO. I think because they love to do those repacks and they probably got a bunch of speeder bikes sitting out there. I think they're going to do kind of like a Queel Blurg. They might do a Poplu speeder bike, the Poplu, the Ewok, because they already got the Wicket type body and all that stuff. So they could do a speeder bike with Poplu. I would love that. I think that'd be fun. It gives you another Ewok. Going back to Ewoks, another thing I want to see is I need to see my man Tebow. Tebow was my favorite Ewok next to Wicket, obviously. No, Tebow.
Oh, okay.
He was the one that wore like the skull head. He's the one that poked him at the very beginning. That was Tebow. He's the warrior. I loved him.
Gotcha.
So he's gray. He looks like Drago, honestly. So I would love to have a Drago Ewok. But what can we expect? I think people are expecting there to be another Emperor. I don't want that just because I don't know what more you could do with that unless you get an alternate head sculpt or whatever. I don't know if they just dropping him in the 40th anniversary pack is going to be everything that everyone wants it to be. But I didn't get a chance last week to talk about how weak ass that this 40th anniversary Vader is.
No, you
Can
didn't.
I have a second just to talk about that?
Yeah, the floor is yours, bro.
And thank you for putting this. Go back to C-3PO, by
You
the
want
way.
C-3PO?
Everyone's raving about. Yeah, well, I just need to say, everyone's raving about C-3PO, but I don't like the dick that's hanging off his eye. You know, I think
Well,
that's
you
a
don't have to
terrible
hang the dick
look.
from his eye, bro. You can put the dick in.
It just does not look good. I just don't like that option. The
I don't
Salacious
either.
Crumb
I don't
looks
either. I
horrible
would never
painted.
use it. But
Yeah. So anyway, but back to the Vader. You can move on now.
all right, we'll go. We'll move the dick eye.
Thank you. So this is, I think, unless they make some big changes, this is about as blatant of a repack as you can get. It's literally the Empire Strikes Back Vader with a head sculpt that no one's really going to use, in all honesty. It's cool, but I have the same one on my quarter scale Vader, and I don't use it. You know, I have it set on a little stand, and look at that. I think that looks so Black Series cheap, honestly. Everyone's like, oh my God, it's so cool. It's lame, and you're not going to be able to keep it plugged in, and you know there's no way to keep it going. It's a battery powered thing. There's no USB, so that's weak. And I mean, look at the one on the left. I mean, that is some cheap development with the little lights and everything. No one's going to display that. It's a gimmick. And I do not think this is the definitive Vader. We can maybe talk about that a little later on. The base is nice. I like having that catwalk and stuff, but it's got all the same problems as the Empire Strikes Back one does. It's got the misshaped helmet that people don't like. It's got the terrible hands. And the only thing you get is that head sculpt and like the USB lightsaber. So if that's all you guys want, you just want some really fancy packaging and a bunch of repacks of things that are already out there, then this probably is going to work for you. And this is probably going to be what to expect from the 40th anniversary line. You'll get an Emperor Palpatine just like this without the chair. Which, by the way, if you do have the opportunity, get the chair. It really makes it. The chair is a must if they end up either re-releasing it or you get a chance to pick that one up. But other things they can say, everyone's been saying, ooh, Han and Chewie, Han and Chewie. I don't think that's coming. I will eat my words if I'm wrong about that. I think there's some likeness issues with Harrison Ford, and while he's still alive and with us, I don't think he's going to give it to him. And I don't think we're going to be seeing a Return of the Jedi Han anytime soon, as much as I would love to see that. We've not gotten Bespin Han. We've not gotten any update to Han since A New Hope ever since. I think there's some issue. So I know that's what everyone wants. We could get a Chewie and Ewok pack. That would be fun, you know, just to go along with, the Leia and Wicket, you know, maybe something like that. But we're not getting a Han Solo. I think I can firmly say that.
What about Obi-Wan?
Anything else out there? An Obi-Wan?
Yeah, maybe a Force
from
Ghost
Return
Obi-Wan?
of the Jedi?
Yeah.
I don't know how you'd pull off a Force Ghost hot toy without it being as silly as the Black Series ones with those like shimmer, like the purple paint and the shimmer clothes and all that stuff.
Right.
The blue haze. I'm like, this is kind of strange. I don't want Hot Toys to become a gimmick line. I don't want that. I don't want them to be like, oh, well, it's a Toy Fair exclusive. We already laugh at the Listerine, Iron Man, and all that stuff. I don't want them doing that to the Star Wars franchise. I really don't. I don't need. I know I keep shitting on Hasbro right now, but I hate those carbonized figures that Hasbro's doing, or the concept art versions of the figures, like towards like a little rainbow figure on a card back, because this is what they look like when they made the prototypes. This is so cool, and everyone's like, oh my God. That's a $20 figure you can collect. I don't want you doing that with my $350 figures making gimmicks. I need them to be screen accurate. I need them to be real. And they're already off to a bad start with Dick Eye, C-3PO, and reused Vader. So I know I've said a lot. I think we need to lower our expectations, because even with round one of the Clone Wars line, Attack of the Clones, they were pretty lame. We got Dirty C-3PO. We got the Clone Pilot, which I really like, by the way. But we didn't get the heavy hitters until we got Mace and Padme and Anakin and all that.
Right.
Those came later. I don't know. All that to say,
Kiko, you mentioned the Listerine Iron Man thing? Haven't they done that with Stormtroopers now? Pretty much, like they've made the gold Stormtrooper and Chrome Stormtrooper.
Right.
They've pretty much done it with
that, the porcelain or whatever. But I don't think you can do it for a big arena.
Like
Boba
a Vader.
Fett. There you go.
Right. Boba Fett, I guess they have. Yeah.
Yeah, they've done like 14 different Boba Fett. So
right, Arena Fett, which is comic accurate, but and then you have like animated Fett.
I don't want to see that.
Yeah, right. I get that. I'm with you on that one. But yeah, this Vader, it's not the iconic Vader to me either. But to a lot of people, it is. Like every time I've posted a poll or asked people in the comments, like most people say that this is the Vader for them, and I think it's Keco because it has a head sculpt. Because none of the others have that, right? You have the Kenobi one that has a half head sculpt, but and most people when they think about a Darth Vader, I don't want to get too much into the weeds of this because we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But it's this the Return of the Jedi is kind of what they think of. But I don't know, Ben. I want to get to you on this one. I want to have you hop in here. But for me, I said this on a live stream, on an Instagram live stream. So now I have to stick by it. I went out on a limb, Ben and Keco, and I was bold. I said, you know what? Han and Chewie 2-pack, Return of the Jedi. I said it's gonna happen. Keco was like, absolutely not, bro. No chance, no chance. I'm wishful thinking. I think it's gonna happen. I think a Jabba power pose. I think that rumor has been circulating for a while. There might just be a collector to collector thing. But I think this might be the time to do it. And I know people mentioned the Jabba Palace. I don't know what the term for is now, Leia. There's like a million different terms for her, but the Leia in the clothing. What do you say?
It's officially called Hut Slayer.
Hut Slayer Leia, right? The term changes, I feel like, often. So, Hut Slayer Leia, that one could be one.
Hut Slayer Leia.
Hut Slayer Leia. I don't know. Maybe that's what this the figure that a lot of people seem to want. Maybe that's the one Hot Toys says, you know what? All right, screw it. We're going to make it, right? I don't know. But I do think there was that one leak. I think it was fake, but that one leak of the Obi-Wan Force Ghost, did you guys see that? The photos?
I think that was fake.
That looked fake to me. Yeah. That looked pretty fake. And I get what you're saying, Keco. To me, you know what I think Hot Toys would do? They could be like, you know what? Obi-Wan was a Force Ghost in the Return of the Jedi, but we're just going to make a regular Obi-Wan and put the Return of the Jedi label on it, and there you go. Right? That's pretty much what they did with Loki and Endgame. Loki and Endgame did not wear the helmet. You never saw him with the helmet. He never had the scepters and all that, right? But in the Endgame figure, he does. So, and that's kind of my point. I feel like they could easily release an Alec Guinness Obi-Wan, not blue.
I mean, they certainly could. I mean, going back to the old Kenner days, if they're going back to the old packaging, I mean, how many times did you see, those figures on Return of the Jedi card backs?
Right.
I mean, it's not like, they've been doing that since the 70s. So that's possible, but that's weak if so.
Yeah. Well, I think you're definitely going to get an Emperor though with the throne. I think it's going to be a soft reissue. I think that's basically what it is. Yeah, like I think they're going to do basically maybe the throne and a slightly different base, or maybe 2 head sculpts or something different. To make it a little bit different than the original. But I think that's coming. I think they've already teased that with Vader lifting the Emperor up in the air. So. But Ben, I want to get your thoughts on this. What do you think? What do you project realistically that we're going to get from this line? I mean, we're definitely going to get like a Stormtrooper or something like that, because Hot Toys is never going to pass up the opportunity to do something that cheap that will move in that much volume. But what do you think, Ben? What do you project here?
First of all, I want to say that was a lot to unpack, Keco. I had a range of emotions. I had to put myself on mute for some of that gasping. Oh my God. You must feel
Keco had to get a lot out.
I was going to say, you must feel like 12 pounds lighter now that that's out of your chest. Like, my God, man, I'm happier on the channel tonight, buddy.
Always, bro.
So I do have to comment quickly on this Vader since it is on the screen.
Okay.
I disagree with Keco. I do think people would display this head sculpt. And I think part of the reason for that is we already have quite a few Vaders available to us from the past. You can display your Vader with the iconic helmet many times over now. This is a very iconic scene from Return of the Jedi where we thought Darth Vader was a powerful, menacing, crazy badass until he takes his helmet off in this movie, and you finally see underneath that he's a withered, sick, dying old man. And it was a really powerful scene because not only does he have an emotional catharsis in that scene with Luke, but also you get to really see the man under the mask and the person who was taken advantage of by the Emperor. And it's powerful. I think people will want to display that in their collections. I think the fact that they've highlighted this glowing helmet does indicate that there's a possibility of an Emperor coming, because I think that would make for a really cool looking display, having the Emperor essentially doing this to in his hands. There's a lot of people who missed on the ability to get the Emperor in the past. Hot Toys has been revisiting the well quite a lot lately. I do agree with you, Will. I think a soft reissue, it would be almost surprising if they don't go down that path, because that's like printing money for them at this point. It would be crazy to focus on another character that's a bit of a gamble when this guy would definitely sell again at this point. Having said that, I also agree, Keco, that like creature wise, this is one of the biggest like creature movies of Star Wars, especially for the the original series. And I think the fact that we've seen Salacious Crumb coming with the C-3PO could indicate at least something coming from Jabba's palace, whether that's Jabba in power pose that they literally just create a mold of them. I know he's sitting on Sideshow, but there's a lot of people who kind of hate on Sideshow but are definitely Hot Toys fanboys and would potentially support a Jabba more than they would the Sideshow alternative. Similarly with that C-3PO, I know a lot of people from the past have got that Sideshow C-3PO as a kind of a stand-in, but it was too tall in comparison to the rest of the line of Hot Toys, so people are starting to pack that one up, getting ready for this new version to come out. So I don't think that just because Sideshow's Jabba is sitting that they wouldn't still possibly consider it. I think it would be kind of like a King Shark in the sense of like they'll just pump out a bunch of them if they make it maybe limited, or they do one of those like limited 300 piece releases or like something along those lines as well. I mean, it would be gone. I think we would see another R2D2. We've seen already a bunch of R2D2s at this point. Clearly they've got the molds, they've got all the bits and pieces that they would really need to recreate the Return of the Jedi version. There's a lot of collectors out there that are completionists, so they wouldn't even fathom putting, a Clone Wars R2D2 with their Return of the Jedi C-3PO. For me, as much as I love those films, I would have a really hard time noticing the subtle differences. So if they never gave us another R2D2, I would still probably pair my C-3PO with one of those other versions. But I'd be surprised again if Hot Toys doesn't revisit the well for that cash and put it in collectors' hands. So an R2D2, I'd be surprised not to see a Jabba, an Emperor for sure. And then, I mean, we recently saw that Luke Skywalker, the Mando Luke.
Yep.
And it's, like a good stand-in potentially even for people who don't have a Return of the Jedi Luke. But how cool would it even be to have maybe a Luke and R2 2-pack from Return of the Jedi as an alternative 2-pack option as well, if we didn't get like a Chewie or a Han. So I also don't really think Chewie and Han are coming. Again, mark my words. I hope Will's right, because I think it would be cool to get them. I completely missed on those, and those are figures now that I could never really justify trying to get in my collection at this point. Cost-wise, it just wouldn't make sense. So I'd be happy to see some alternative options. In terms of the dick eye for the C-3PO, you know what? I don't hate it. I think it's kind of cool. I get what they're trying to do. I feel like it's two figures in one. I appreciate that. I never thought we'd get a Salacious Crumb. To begin with, it's a random little mold that I think is going to be funny in most Star Wars collections. I mean, even in Mando, we saw this species getting fried in a frying pan at one of the beginnings of one of the episodes. Like, you can do other things than display it like this. If I display mine, I don't know if I'll display it with the eye out, though. I kind of agree with you there. There are other things that I think that they could have done instead of the eye out that would have been pretty cool, like a Chewie backpack or something along those lines. I'm not sure what, but there could be other things. I just appreciate the fact that they gave it to us. The one criticism I'll have of this C-3PO is I do wish that they mapped out where the die cast is. They did that with, I think it was the Mark 1, like a couple months ago. They kind of gave us a bit of a map of where those die-cast bits are. The cost on this isn't too bad, especially when it comes to die-cast, but how much die-cast are we actually getting? Like, once we get it in hand, is it going to be plastic in most places and just metal at the joints, or what? So I think in the future, I'd like to see some consistency from Hot Toys to get more of an identified, what you're buying for your money, here it is. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. It does. But Ben, you had one, and I said this in my Insta live stream, and I forgot to mention this. I do think Luke Skywalker is coming. I think they're not going to pass up an opportunity to make a Luke. How different is it from Mando Luke? It could hurt the sales of Mando Luke, because a lot of the reason that people are buying that is because it fills that Return of the Jedi void on their shelf, right? So that's one of the reasons that people are getting it. For me, I'm definitely getting the Mando Luke to be a Mando Luke, because that scene itself is incredible, and that's pretty much as powerful maybe as we've ever seen Luke. Like, that was pretty remarkable what he pulled off there against the Dark Trooper is really cool. Keco knows that Dark Trooper with the light up effects, like, those are pretty dope. But yeah, I'm with you, Ben. I mean, I'm gonna be on my island, Han and Chewie, and I'll probably be wrong, but I'd rather go bold than not. But yeah, I mean, I guess I'm somewhere in between you guys, and then we'll move on to the next topic about the C3PO. I'm with Keco a little bit on the eye thing. I think it's cool to have it. I'm not complaining that it's there, but I'm never going to use it. It's not even a consideration. Anytime I see that photo, I try to get to the photo that doesn't have it because I'm looking at the other photo that I think I would much rather want to see. But it's a nice little addition, especially having Salacious Crumb there and, having that option should you want to do that. So, at the end of the day, maybe we're paying $30 more for that second head sculpt. That's not the end of the world to me. So I'd rather not have it, but I'm happy for the people that do want to use it so they can if they want to. So,
if anything, I think the downfall of that C3PO is if you don't have it turned on or lit, it
right,
might look a little on the
The Sideshow has that problem too. I mean, yeah, like and I wonder how the batteries are going to be because the Sideshow one lasts, the batteries last a pretty long time and you just tap the forehead to turn it on and off. So I hope Hot Toys does something similar.
Too.
Yeah, exactly. I hope Hot Toys does something similar here, Keco, where they take Sideshow's lead and then go with that, so the batteries last longer and it's easier. So you don't have to pull the head off, flick the switch on, put it back on. I don't have to deal with it. Sideshow made it super easy. So, yeah, one time where Sideshow kind of outdid the Hot Toys there. So, guys, let us know in the comments below what you're thinking. What's coming next from the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary line? What do you hope to see? What do you expect to see? Really fun topic there.
Gamorrean
So guys,
Guard,
thanks.
I saw somebody say, by the way, which I'm like,
what'd you say?
Gamorrean Guard.
Oh, dude, yeah, I heard about that actually. I heard people saying Gamorrean Guard
too.
Yeah, Gamorrean Guard could be an easy one, Keco and Ben, just because there's no likeness. It's like the paint. It's kind of like making
two of those two from Sideshow. Those two, like Gortog and I forget the other name. There's two of those Gamorrean Guards, and they go for like 800 a piece or whatever. So I would love to get a legit Gamorrean Guard that looks good.
Let's. And I want to keep this discussion going, and we'll make this topic somewhat quicker so we have time to get to our other ones. I thought about this. I was actually talking to Carlos about this, and I wanted to bring this up with you guys. I wanted to revisit the topic real quick of the iconic Darth Vader. And we've already kind of hinted at this in our first topic that we've talked about, right? Because a lot of times with collecting, we see a figure and we just, like I said, I describe a lot of us, at least sometimes what I do, it's like a dog chasing cars, right? You see something, you're like, oh, shiny new thing, and you go after it. That's what happens. But then when you sit back and think about it, you say, how many Darth Vaders do I actually need in my collection, right? And to me, I started to think about this because to me, the Kenobi Vader is the most unique Darth Vader. I think it's the coolest looking Darth Vader because if you put that on your shelf and you look and anyone walks in your collection room, that is the Darth Vader that's going to grab people's attention over any other Darth Vader because it's so unique looking. And not just because it's unique, we tend as collectors value battle damage figures. Like when we talk about the figures that most people like going for, think about the battle damage or the battling cap from Civil War, right? Iron Man Mark 85 battle damage. The battle damage Thanos, that's probably the Thanos that most people want in their collection, right? We tend to really like battle damage figures because the unique battle damage Terminator, DX13. There's just a lot you can do with it, right? But not exactly where I'm going with this topic. I want to share something real quick, and I want to share, this is actually part of the discussion that I think a lot of people have slept on. So, we're talking about iconic, right? And I was actually explaining this to Carlos. And I said, you know what? I have two Darth Vaders. Well, I will have two Darth Vaders. I'll have the Kenobi Vader and I have this one. And I was thinking, what is the most, if we're talking about literal iconic Vader, right? I think you could argue, in my opinion, I want to hear your guys' thoughts on this and what your opinion is. And the chat, let us know what you think the iconic Darth Vader is. If you're talking about the most iconic scene in Star Wars history, I think it's got to be Luke, I am your father, right? Or I am your father. I think that's got to be, I think if you ask anyone on the regular street, they say, I am your father. They say, Luke, I am your father, which is not the line technically, but it's the general premise, right? This figure recreates that scene. It has the base. This is in most people's eyes, the best Star Wars film ever created. Most people consider Empire the best, right? I would argue anyway, maybe the chat can disagree with me. Maybe they'll say Return of the Jedi, but I would argue that most people think Empire is the best Star Wars film ever made. When you talk about Infinity War or whatever, they say, oh, that's Marvel's Empire Strikes Back, right? That's what it is. So I think people might be sleeping on Empire Vader for that reason, because it's a beautiful Vader. Maybe it's a little bit simpler of a Vader. Like Keco said, maybe it's a repackage, but if we're talking about the most iconic Darth Vader, this is the most iconic scene for Darth Vader, in my opinion. And this recreates it with a beautiful base, a beautiful figure, and probably the best Star Wars film ever made. So, and probably the best, he just whooped Luke's ass in that fight, basically. So it was great. But Keco, I want to ask you, if we're talking about the most iconic Darth Vader figure, What do you think it is? Or you think people are sleeping on the Empire Vader? I still think if you had to have one Vader in your collection, it would be Kenobi because it's the coolest. But as far as iconic, what do you think about this?
That's a very tough call because Empire is my favorite movie. This is one of my favorite scenes. I've actually seen the little videos of people showing their kids, this moment and how they respond to it. And they show them realizing that that's his dad. And when you put it with the prequels and kind of what Ben was saying a little bit ago, the final culmination of Anakin's story being taken advantage. This is when his humanity starts to come through because he said, I'm not a machine anymore. I do have a heart. I still want my kid, type of thing. I mean, we get really deep into that if you wanted to, but I want to go against the grain on this one because although this is probably the most famous scene, I don't think it's the most iconic because the most iconic scene for me is when the door opens on the Tantive 4 or Tantive 4, whatever they call it, and he walks through onto the screen for the first time ever in 1977. You see Vader, the White Halls, coming through the smoke. People lost their shit on that because they're like, oh my God, who is this? That was Darth Vader's first motion or first moment on screen. And if you're talking iconic, that is the icon because the black against the white is undeniable. It is the coolest, moment that changed movie making forever at that moment. So I think the New Hope Vader, specifically the Tarkin 2-pack one, because I think his body is better. And I think the paint apps and all that stuff overall. So I'm going with a New Hope Vader, the Tarkin 2-pack one, because that moment when he walks through changed the world essentially with that character. So that's it for me.
Yeah, that's a good point, Keco. And that, dude, honestly, I've always wanted that Darth Vader, but like Ben referenced with the Han and Chewie, he's so hard to find now because I don't want the regular New Hope Vader. I want the 2-pack Tarkin Vader because, like you said, it's a vast improvement over the original. And I've always wanted a New Hope Vader. That's what I have a 501st Vader costume that I wear to events and stuff. And it's a New Hope because I love the weathered sort of beat up look of it. It's very like, I don't know.
Yeah, and the one little tusk missing. And
yeah,
things.
like it's just
that.
awesome, so bro. I just love it. Just like it's battle damage, basically. Again, we go back to battle damage. But Keco, to answer this real quick before I move on to Ben, but if you had to pick one Hot Toys Vader figure, it'd probably still be Kenobi, no?
No, I would say it would be the Tarkin 2-pack Vader because I didn't care as much for the emotion of seeing a cracked skull Anakin or whatever, just because I didn't like the Kenobi show overall. I didn't think it was well done.
Right.
So it doesn't hit me as much as this moment when you first see Darth Vader for who he is in Star Wars.
That makes sense. Well, Ben, give us your thoughts on this topic. What do you think? What's the iconic Darth Vader figure for you and their iconic Darth Vader outfit or version for you?
Such a good question because I don't have a Darth Vader in my Star Wars lineup.
See, and now you have options.
I have like almost too many options, which is
right.
the reason it's such a good question. So I've got the Anakin one on pre-order right now from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series because I agree with you. That's easily one of the coolest Vaders I've seen. I remember kind of like what Keco said when it came to A New Hope, that first time you see Darth Vader walking down the hallway, it's like 100%. Who is this? Wow, he's badass. That is scary. I do think for me, though, Empire Strikes Back is still the most iconic film, at least in terms of when I think back to my love of Star Wars, as just the original series kind of in a like a nutshell, because that's also that, we see the bad guy win, end of the movie where you're so used to seeing your heroes win, and when Vader comes out on top in that film and you see all your heroes broken and we find out that Darth Vader is Luke's father and like all of the things, that's like, oh my God, like what is even the next movie even going to look like? Where did they pick up the pieces from this? Now somebody mentioned it in the comments and I actually agree. I think one of the reasons that the Empire Strikes Back version works so well is if it comes with the base that helps to represent that scene. If not, I do find it still difficult to identify some of the differences between all of the Vaders. They're so similar and yet subtly different in so many ways. And unless you're an absolute Darth Vader super fan, I think most people would walk past and be like, oh, that's awesome. You got a really wicked Darth Vader in your collection. And you could almost fit him in to any scene that you wanted to. You have to be a very hardcore collector to know the difference. So for me, if I had to choose one iconic version, I think it would still be the Empire Strikes Back version because of my love for that film specifically. But the challenge that I have is now I've got the pre-order version for the Obi-Wan figure coming. I also really like the head sculpt and the offering of this new Vader. Sans the light up blue helmet. I don't think I would get that version. I think I'm gonna get, if I get it, I'll just get the standard. Um, but I like that head sculpt. I think having an evolution of Darth Vader's is something that I may actually try to attempt in my collection instead of just having one. So I think I'd want to see that Padawan Anakin when he's still pretty bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and he's got his little baby curls in the front. I'd like to then see dark side Anakin standing beside it. I'd then like to see my like an Empire Strikes Back or the Obi-Wan Kenobi version, and then the final version that we got to see recently here with the Return of the Jedi. I think kind of 4 versions like that transition of that character would be a pretty cool looking display. But if I had to only pick one and eliminate all others, it would probably be The Empire Strikes Back. The only exception I will say is I know guys like Zach from Collecting Weekly love the Rogue One Vader, the actual figure itself, and that was also a really cool, iconic scene for Vader when he goes down the hallway and just absolutely smashes. Also really cool, so definitely a highlight,
dude, because we had a lot of comments, people saying that the Rogue One Vader's icon. It is, bro. It is. It's just Rogue One is a really good film, but it's not quite as iconic as the original trilogy. You know what I mean? So despite how good that Vader scene is, that might be the best scene in Star Wars, period, in terms of quality, because it's just so awesome and it's so well done. When I was in the theater, I was like, this is insane. But yeah, and I was thinking the same thing that Nick was. He was saying, just wait until we get a Revenge of the Sith Vader, that you're going to have like a burn up Anakin as like a sort of thing, you know, its own little piece. That's going to be something that comes eventually too.
And a little voice box that says no.
Right. Yeah, dude, that would be pretty funny, right? So why not? Like Hot Toys would do something like that. But yeah, I'm with you guys. There's so many good Vaders. That's why I like this topic, because you know, most of us are not going to collect them all because, like you said, Ben, they are so slightly different, right? The only real difference between them is maybe it has a head sculpt this time or the base is different. Other than that, there's like a slightly different cod piece. Maybe the armor is slightly a little bit shinier. Maybe the chest box is a little bit different, but just barely. It's kind of, Iron Man has more discrepancy between versions than Vader does, which is saying something. So it's, you know, you're not going to buy them all. So
I did feel like I kept waiting for the next one, though, and then the next one came out. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll see what the next one looks like. And then the next one came out, and I'm like, okay, well, like, at some point you have to make a choice. So it has to, for me, it has to go back to the movie that gave me the most, like, emotion anyways, and I still think that's Empire. That's why I got the Boba Fett from Empire Strikes Back in my collection versus even the Return of the Jedi Boba Fett, which is a really badass outfit, but I didn't love the movie as much as the Empire, so...
Same here. Well, guys, let us know in the comments below what you think about the iconic Darth Vader. I've been seeing some great comments already, but if you're watching this on replay, drop a comment. Let us know what you think. So thanks so much, guys, for your thoughts on that one. I want to address something else here, and I want to give a warning. I'm going to give everyone a fair warning here on this one. I'll post a little ticker here. So, spoiler warning. Mando season 3. Ben, you've seen it, right? Okay. I would assume everyone in the chat has seen it. Right? I'm going to give everyone a spoiler warning. I'm going to, count down from 5 here, basically. Just count it in your own heads, because I'm going to share something, and this is going to be a spoiler warning. And like I said, if you have not seen Mando season 3, I don't want to ruin this for you, but we need to talk about this, okay? Because the question that I have, Mando season 3, is the figure line and the show redeemed? Kiko's already shaking his head no, because we got one more episode. And we had an episode that dropped on Wednesday, which a lot of people seem pretty happy with. I actually, to give my brief thoughts on it, I thought it was solid. It was good. I didn't love it, but I thought it was really good. I thought it was like an 8.5. I've seen some people who hated it. I've seen some people who absolutely loved it, said it's one of the best Star Wars episodes they've ever seen. So yeah, it's going to be pretty interesting. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Like I said, I've given everyone fair warning here. So I'm going to share something. Okay, so this was a pretty interesting shot that I think people are going to wonder, because I think it was just last week where Keco was not here, right? Keco was not here, and we talked about what figures are you actually going to make from Mando season 3? And now I think we have more clarity on that situation. I think when you look at what happened in this last episode, and of course what you're going to see in the very last episode, that you have some figure potential there. That said, is the show redeemed and is the figure line redeemed? Because last week, Keco, we talked about, while you weren't here, we talked about whether the Mando line was actually going to suffer because this season was so controversial. Keco, what do you think after watching episode 7 of season 3 of Mando? Is the figure line going to be redeemed and is the show redeemed? How are you feeling going into episode 8, the finale?
If you remember 3-4 weeks ago, you asked a question on this show, Will, and you said, does Mando have the possibility to become a stronger line than the original trilogy? Remember that? That was a theme. And I said, hell no.
You did.
Because of how you finish a story. And after me being out last week, that was probably one of the and I don't want to just belabor the point if you guys have already talked about it, but that was probably one of the worst received and viewed show or episodes in the entire Star Wars canon ever, because there's so much writing on that season. You get 8 episodes. Everyone's like, well, they do that stuff in the Clone Wars and Bad. Yeah, because you get 16, 20 episodes per season. You can dick around in episodes when you have, a chase episode that's a filler because you got 16, 17, 20 episodes. You get 8. That's it. And when you are still kind of playing catch up, waiting for direction, all that stuff, that's why it was so upsetting for a lot of people, including myself. And I know it's at the end of the day, it's just a show, but who cares? It's important to us. And so when you are literally 75% of the way through a season, you have no direction and you just wasted an episode playing around with cameos and Scooby-Dooing things that made 0 sense, people are going to be upset. And if you would have asked me last week, is Star Wars Mandalorian done? I would have said 100% it's done. It's done. No coming back from that. Was this episode a redeeming episode? Yes. But it still had me questioning, where has this been the whole time? And are we just going to throw everything at the wall these next 2 episodes and hope something sticks for the gotcha in the feels moment? Because that's kind of what happened in season 1 and season 2. And it looked like they're doing the same thing for season 3. We have gotten to the point to where I am not sure what the main goal is, but there's all kinds of talk about who's going to die, who's going to show up, all those type of things. And I was talking with Riley before we got on here about how much potential Game of Thrones had, and it did not stick the landing. And I worry about that for The Mandalorian not sticking the landing. If you think about it, you should not have to have shows that make your movies or shows better. They need to be able to stand alone on themselves. And I think as consumers, we've really got to be critical of the things that don't make sense sometimes, simply for the fact that, oh, don't worry, it'll explain it in this show, or it's going to get more fleshed out in this movie. Once this comes out, it'll make this that much better. No, these things need to stand alone and just be good in general. Yeah, you're going to have some, stinkers through there. You look at the MCU, there were some stinkers in the Infinity Saga, sure, but 80% or so were really, really good. And I can hit 80%. But this season has maybe had 20% of thumbs up and maybe 30% good. And the rest has just been a travesty. I'm just going to be honest. Can this last episode save it? Maybe. We'll see. But I don't want it just to be like a punt, like as South Park always mentions. I don't want it just to be a Member Berries episode. Like, oh, look at all these guys, to distract us from the fact that it's been directionless. I think they need to address that. I like where they're going. I like the opportunity that there's the Shadow Council and Gideon and Thrawn. I like that. Let's go with it. Because if not, people are going to rebel against this and be mad. Because people did not receive episode 6 very well at all. And it shows me that Star Wars, Lucasfilm doesn't listen, really. Because they doubled down and started putting all the character posters up of Lizzo and Jack Black. And they turned the comments off because they knew exactly what people were going to say. And it's not the issue that those people are in it. It's because, hey, we're trying to tell a story here. Use your marketing for something else. That was what people were upset about. I know I've been very negative this entire show, Will.
It's because you had a week off. That's why.
Yeah. So Is the show redeemed? No. Is the figure line redeemed? I mean, I'll get some Beskar Shadow Troopers. Sure. I'm going to get a new, Moff DeLorean, I think. But someone asked this. Right now, it is the mid DeLorean because it is very, very average. And for a show that had so much potential, a year ago, I'm stuck wondering what's next. And I'm not exactly excited.
Right. Hey, I can't blame you, Kiko. And we're talking, if we're thinking about the figure line, like I mentioned, you're thinking about what figures can they make from this season that you're really going to go crazy for. Season 1 and season 2 had plenty of things that you could be like, yeah, I'll get that, and I'll get that too, because they were so good. And like Ben referenced talking about Empire and why he loves that Vader is because Empire is the best film. When you have a really, really good film, people want to collect characters and relics from that film. And this season has been very up and down. It's been like, okay, this is really good. Oh, and we're back. And then we're back up again. And then we're here. Because like you said, Kiko, I feel like it's been very directionless and they just saved everything to the last 2 episodes. And this episode is great, but I can't also forget the last couple that have really not been that great. Like it's been very, like what is half of it? It's like, what's going on with Jack Black and Lizzo and whatever. It's just kind of like, I don't know. But Ben, I want to get your thoughts on this. So far in this season, we have 1 episode left, right? We have 1 episode left. I've not seen a single character that I'm like, okay, I would get that figure. Maybe, again, spoiler warning, because it's been flashing for a while now, maybe the Praetorians, maybe get one of those. But honestly, if I'm being real, they were cooler in The Last Jedi as far as their designs. Like their designs, if you look at them now, I was looking at them, I'm like, oh man, I wish they had just kept the original design. Because I have 2 Praetorian guards and I would love to get another one, but I don't like the new design quite as much. It has like a split in the middle. Maybe it's like, it looks kind of Mandalorian-ish, right? That's what it looks like. But the original ones had like a fully covered face and it just looked really, really cool. And I loved, so I don't know. That's maybe the only thing I would consider. I like their sort of Vibra blade, purple stuff, whatever. But Ben, what do you think about this? Is the show and is the line redeemed? Because I did ask Kiko that very question he referenced. Is the Mandalorian going to end up being bigger than the original trilogy? Because the first 2 seasons, it started to look like it was going to be at least in competition. But with season 3, I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
Jeez, it's such a good question. So I agree with a lot of what Kiko said on this round, to be honest. And I think for me, Mandalorian, the first season still is my favorite. The second season, there were episodes that I felt like were some filler and had started to slip a little bit, but it still kept our attention. I think part of the challenge of the way that they release these seasons is that there's so much time in between as well. So I think it was like nearly like on the calendar, technically just under 3 years between season 2 and season 3. That's a long time for people to wait for this show to come back, for them to feel then like they haven't really like had a direction, like Kiko said, and like who's going to be the big bad of the season, and like why do we care about some of this stuff. And a lot of me watching this season has been me thinking I almost wish this was a video game, because I actually think I'd probably enjoy it more. That more like transactional nature of like, he has a quest, he goes and does the quest, he comes back and you get another quest and you go and do that quest, and like that formula I think would be more fun as like a season 3 video game than it has been to watch. And with this most recent episode, did it redeem some of my feelings for the season? Like slightly, for sure. But I think one of the challenges that they're up against is they did the sequel trilogy already, right? We already kind of know what happens in the Star Wars universe. Thrawn was not mentioned at all. Same with Moff Gideon. Like, if these guys are going to be such big threats to the Star Wars universe and canon, what happens to them? I guess we'll get to find out, but it's a little bit anticlimactic because I'm not really worried about them actually being all that definitive of characters within the universe, because they're gone by the time we get Rey and some of those others. And
great point.
They go back to Palpatine. I mean, like, Palpatine's the big bad, right? Somehow Palpatine has returned. Like, they gave us that story. So now they're up against trying to recreate like content that feels just like a little bit hollow. And so
That's a great point, because what you had mentioned is that there's no stakes. I mean, yeah, that's another reason I didn't really care for the Kenobi show, because
Mhm.
are we really invested in the Kenobi Anakin duel again? Do we think any of them are not walking out of that alive? Because, like I said, there's no stakes. And so that's a
Yeah.
great point, man.
Yeah, for sure. And so that's been, I think, my biggest challenge just overall with this series. I'm more excited for Ahsoka because there is a lot of story there that hasn't been developed. There's a lot of characters that people love from Clone Wars that they're really excited to see on the the like the real life screen now and stuff. So there's some elements to that that I think are exciting. Has it redeemed the figure line from this episode? Sure, totally. I agree with, I think you called him the Moff DeLorean.
And you got Iron Gideon, yeah.
Yeah,
So
like I thought
yeah,
that was a cool design for the figure. He looked pretty jacked, honestly, in the outfit. I'm sure it's a different
it's
body double
padding, bro.
underneath,
It's padding.
or it's padding. As a figure, like I like dark side style figures. Like I love my Darth Maul. I'm stoked to have Vader's in my collection. I think this dark side Maul would be, or sorry, Gideon would be a cool addition. So he'd probably be a figure I'd pick up. When we saw IG-12 carrying Grogu around, I mean, Grogu sells. He's still a huge cash win. He's kind of the new Mickey Mouse for Disney still at the moment. So they're going to, I'm almost guaranteed, make an IG-12 that carries a Grogu. So that's just another Grogu we're gonna have in our collections. With so many Grogus. But even that, seeing the IG-12, like they kind of built it up, but then they didn't use them. Like Gideon didn't even say, "Hey, that's Grogu." Like that was such an important story beat in the first two seasons. And then he's standing right there in the IG-12, and it just didn't even matter. And so it feels like there's a lot of kind of what you said earlier, Keco, like member berries. Like they're hinting at Thrawn, they're hinting at all these other things, but it doesn't have any substance. Like, where's it even going to go? Why does it matter to us now? So it will be harder for it to be a sale when it comes to figures, because I think people will see these figures and they'll be like, it's cool, but I didn't love the season, so I'm going to wait till it goes to bargain bin and maybe spend my
right.
money elsewhere. And if the Ahsoka show comes out and it's a banger, or like any of these other shows that have been announced recently, people's memories fade pretty quickly. And if this stuff doesn't stick with you now, in 3 years from now, when Mando season 4 comes out, people might just not even care anymore, and they'll have already moved on to other figure lines. So
See, that's the problem, Ben. That's the problem, because the Mando line 1 and 2 were hot. The Hot Toys could not produce enough from those lines. They were like, yeah, it's in the show. Let's make it. That's why I was always shocked they didn't make a Frog Lady, to be honest. I thought they were going to make that, because I thought it would have been, people would have been like, okay, cool. I love Mando. I'll buy a Frog Lady. But now after season 3, it's like, oh man, I don't know how I feel about Mando, right? And what do you really do as far as Din goes for season 3? Like
yeah.
what do you do
Actually,
really?
and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I forgot to say that. That was something that I was completely wrong on. I thought by like episode 2 he'd have like a blue armor plate.
Yeah, I thought
and
so
we would
too, or
already
gold
have
or
a
something.
yeah, and that we'd
Yeah.
already have a pre-order for a new Mando out there. And so far, not at all. Yeah, I mean, it might come, but I thought like when he relinquishes the Darksaber to Bo-Katan, like I thought he was going to be kind of like the new face of Mandalore, which then would mean he might get that gold or black armor like
Right.
from the comics, but he's given it away. So unless there's too much to come back in one episode, that I'm like, how can they make it so emotionally cathartic for us collectors that we're like, oh my god, okay, yeah, sold, we have to buy it all.
Right.
At this
And
point.
that with Mando season 3, I don't know that you have that. I mean, you have some
Yeah.
cool looking figures and stuff, but I don't know that you have that emotional heartbeat connection. I don't know that that's there, like it was with the first two. So, but hey, we got one more episode. Supposedly there's going to be some wild shit going on, and I'm excited to see it. I'm excited to see it. I
Says
don't
their
think
marketing department.
yeah, right.
Why wouldn't they
Exactly.
say you got to tune in? I love like on my Twitter feed, it's like the galaxy will never be the same. Make sure to stream the finale this Wednesday. I'm like,
Is that what they
oh, okay.
said?
Yeah, of course.
Oh,
That's
wow.
the marketing scheme going right now. The galaxy will never be the same. Oh,
Yeah.
just like Ben had said, somehow Palpatine returns. It seems pretty damn the same to me.
That's a
Hey,
good
you know
point.
what? If they make a Jack Black though, I might still buy
Dude,
that
no,
just
don't.
because I think Jack Black is awesome.
He is awesome, but
he's
don't
a
put that
character
evil
within
I want
on
a
us,
school
himself.
of rock.
But
I want a school of rock, Jack Black.
Honestly,
Right.
though, as much as I say, you know, when I see the Praetorian Hot Toys, maybe I'll take a look at it, depending upon price. Because I have the two Last Jedi ones. I think they're and they've become grails. They become 2 times value
It's
even
funny
before
that a
this
lot of
episode.
them are on eBay right now. Those
Dude, yeah,
Praetorian
no
cards.
doubt, no doubt.
I was
People are
like,
trying to
this is very
capitalize.
interesting to me.
Yep,
100%.
yep. People are trying to capitalize. But we did get a super chat. I have to scroll back up to find it from, I think it was from Blue Beetle. So Blue Beetle, Mr. Carlos. I got to find it though, because they were arguing in the chat about Marvel and Star Wars, and the comment got totally lost. $5 from Blue Beetle. Thank you so much, Carlos. Season 3 is straight ass, according to Carlos. Pointless. Just as pointless as IG-12, those dumb new guards, and Darth Mando. Marvel is back on top, baby. Keco loves it because Carlos is just being controversial. So yeah, I know we don't straight agree with Carlos on this one. Carlos, I agree that it's been mostly directionless, though. I do agree with that. I wouldn't say pointless because there has been some cool things. There was that Keiko, I was at your house when we watched it actually. The fight, the fight with the Starfighter, right? They were flying around. That was a really, really cool scene. I actually really liked episode 1. Then they like abandoned a lot of the plot lines, and they were just like, well, here you go. We're gonna chase a bird.
Fighter, aren't we?
Right. So yeah, this season has been not what we wanted it to be so far. But hey, the last episode was great. It's just, you're absolutely right, Keiko. Where was this before? Like, this feels like a lot of filler content where you didn't have room to have filler content. Like, it's not a, like you said, Keiko, it's not a 20 episode season where you could throw in a filler episode. You got 8 episodes. Like, and you're doing stuff like chasing this bird for a whole episode who captured a kid, and like, and all this other stuff that just means almost nothing to the plot. Like, what did that really lead us towards anything? I guess it get like Paz
my
maybe
last thing I'll
trusted them.
say-
Yeah,
Sure. And we've talked about this a little bit too long, and I apologize about that. But
that's all good.
we talk about the idea of iconic characters and iconic moments.
Right.
Moff Gideon was introduced at the end of season 1. How has he only shown up in 3 episodes since? Right. I mean, imagine showing Darth Vader or something and him just dipping out till like the end of Return of the Jedi, that he just happens to show back up. Imagine him missing completely from a movie. It would make no sense.
Well, he shows up at the end of every season. Like, it's the same thing over and over. Like, at the end of every season, it's like Moff Gideon somehow returned. Like, that's, you know, it's yeah, it's just it's what keeps happening every season.
If
you
you guys
just
are
keep
getting
saying "Long live the Empire."
If you guys are getting fatigued with Star Wars, feel free to convert over to Star Trek, because Picard season 3 has been absolute fire. I don't know who said it in the chat, but that shit has made me cry every episode. It has been so damn good.
Mando has made us cry for the wrong reasons.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
It's absolutely the wrong reasons.
Move to Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Star Trek could be the thing, though. Could be the thing. But guys, we got some more topics to talk about. So let's talk about this. And this will probably be a quick one because no one really cares except for me. But I want to bring it up. Toys Era, The Last of Us Joel. They updated the head sculpt. And I talked to a couple of different collectors actually about this. And it's funny because some people were like, I don't know. It pretty much looks the same to me, right? Not to me. I don't know what y'all are seeing here, because when I look at this Toys Era Joel head sculpt from HBO's The Last of Us, which everyone should watch, by the way, not quite as good as the game, because the game is perfection. It is chef's kiss. But when you're talking about The Last Father, I actually got to give Toys Era some credit here, because I'm going to zoom in on this head sculpt just to show it a little bit. Guys, I think they did a pretty good job here. I've probably been the biggest negative Nancy about Toys Era this whole time. I've been like, I see. And I saw Kiko's Toys Era. I saw his infamous toys, which is Toys Era, right? And I've seen those, and I've always been like, you know what? I don't know if Toys Era really makes that great of figures. I don't know if I feel great about them. But then, you know what? They make 2 characters that I love, and I'm in, baby. They make Aerith, and you know what? I love how it looks. They updated this Joel head sculpt. This looks really, really good, guys. I still have not pre-ordered it yet because I want to see what Mars Toys does, and Lim Toys is making the game version. I will get an HBO show version, but I want to ask this question. Keco, does criticism work? Do you think this Joel is better? Because clearly Toys Era, if everyone said originally with the head sculpt the way it was, they would have said, oh, it's great, everyone loves it, or they just said nothing, right? But the fact that everyone really complained and said it's kind of too boxy, it looks off, they fixed it. And they fixed it and made it better. So, does criticism work? Because in my opinion, the answer is clearly yes. because it got their attention. Look, the only one they didn't give a shit about was Hot Toys with Ant-Man because they were like, we don't give a shit. It's Ant-Man. So y'all are going to take it how it is, right? But when Iron Man Tony Stark came out, they were like, all right, we hear y'all. It's Iron Man. So we're going to fix it. But this Joel, Toys R Us listened, and I got to give them respect because I think they produced a banger here as far as the head sculpt. Keco, what do you think?
Criticism works if it's done the right way and to the right people. The thing is that sometimes crying, yelling at the cloud, essentially, with the companies that can't do anything. The thing with this is that they don't have a million things on their plate, so they have the capacity to listen, and that is great. If you have the capacity to listen and they want to basically really take their stuff to the next level and get it, they don't have an opportunity to have a miss. Otherwise, there's nothing much in their hopper, so they have to do these improvements. If you go to Hot Toys, like you said with the Ant-Man, they don't care. They have 15 more things coming down this month, and so they don't really care that much. So yeah, criticism works if it's done respectfully and right to the right people. There's some that you can just sit there and yell all day and they won't do anything just because they don't want to listen to this. But I'm very excited for you, Will. I thought he had a beard though. Does he shave that? Why is it just a mustache?
Yeah, it's mostly just shaven. I did tell him to fix the sleeves too. By the way, Keco, the tailoring is not great here. So his sleeves are very long.
You reached out and let him know.
Well, I reached out on the Facebook post that I think it's someone in their company who made it, and I commented and said, please fix the sleeves, basically. I don't have a name with Toys R Us. I don't know them like that, so it's not like I can message them and say, please fix the sleeves because this character is important. But that would be great. So Toys R Us, if you are listening and you do want to chat, I would love to give you some feedback on that. But you are right, Keco, you can see a little bit. See, they kind of got it in there. So it's
okay. Now I see it.
Yeah, because Pedro has a patchy beard. It's kind of like Carlos's. So it's kind of patchy, right? So it just is what it is. So
hate to see it.
Yeah, I know. But Keco, I'm glad you're excited for me, Keco. But you think criticism works overall? I don't want to cut you off before we move on to Ben.
Yeah, criticism works overall if directed to the right people and in the right manner.
Okay. Well, Ben, what do you think? What do you think about this Joel and criticism?
I feel like I would have need to see the original picture beside it because I'm not noticing the difference enough. This still feels a little
it's the same
bit
picture.
third party to me and feels very, very similar to what they showed previously. Even like when I think about the in art recently when they, announced that they had kind of updated the head sculpt for the Bruce Wayne, but then everybody was like, oh, it looks so much worse. It looks so much worse. And then they released another statement to be like, well, actually, like, we didn't really like change it that much. We just we changed up the lighting. And it's like, oh, okay, well, so I don't want it to be about the lighting. I think if this figure resonates with you and the character resonates with you, I think it's still like a decent option. It does scream a little third party to me in the tailoring. So I'm glad you mentioned that to them. There was the one picture of his head floating on the table. I think that actually looks more like Pedro than when it's on the body, which is an odd thing to feel. But I think that I see him there 100%. I don't think there's any mistaking that's who that is. I honestly didn't really think the Hot Toys likeness for Pedro Pascal for the newest Chrome Mando was all that great, to be honest. And that's from a licensed company.
This is better. Yeah.
I honestly think this might actually be better. Yeah. So I think it's the tailoring that's just subtly off. But that could be potentially still improved maybe before the figure is finally released. And do you have a price point on this by chance, Will?
Yeah, so if you use my special code for $10 off, I think it's $187 shipped. So
okay. So
that's pretty hard to beat. Yeah.
Pretty reasonable, right? Like pretty reasonable. I think if you want it in your collection for sure. I do think we're gonna need an Ellie to go with this Joel.
Yeah.
And Bella Ramsey's such a unique person. I'll be curious to see like a third party representation of her head sculpt, even especially because that's one of those ones that you have to nail, or she's gonna look so weird. She's already a bit of a strange looking person just to begin with. If it's subtly off, it could be really off. So I think for me on this one, I'm gonna kind of hold off. Well, kind of like you mentioned, see what other options are out there. I love The Last of Us game. For me, I still would almost rather have the game figures, I think, in my collection than the characters from the live action show, despite my affection for the live action show. I thought it was phenomenal. And it's not even going to be called HBO anymore. It's just going to be Max now. So
I know, right? It's very odd.
Doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, and sorry, I just wanted to comment back, just subtly off topic. JMax77 said, "Is it bad that I still like The Mandalorian season 3, even though I know it's not perfect, still fun regardless?" don't let our criticism affect your affection for any franchise. I love Star Trek. Look how many people in the chat said they freaking hate Star Trek. I saw somebody say they'd rather swallow a head sculpt than watch Star Trek.
Did they?
Yeah, and I'm cool with it. I still love Star Trek no matter what. So love what you love if it resonates with you.
That's a pretty witty comment, though. I gotta give it to him.
100%. I get it, right? Not everything is for everybody, and sometimes that can sound like a cop-out answer, but it's actually kind of true sometimes. If you like it, watch it, buy it, do whatever you want to do. It's your collection, it's not ours. But also think about some of those subjects that we talked about, because I think also, kind of like Keco said with this figure, criticism can make a difference. And if it's criticism from the right place, from the heart, it's because we're fans. It's because we want them to do better. We want to celebrate the wins. We don't want to watch something and then be like, well, that's like, why? We don't want to be disappointed. And so, yeah, don't let our opinion of the show necessarily.
And it's funny you mentioned that, Ben, because it's almost the opposite of what normally happens with third party. Like the tailoring is generally pretty solid to good, and the head sculpt is not great. Right. And in this case, the head sculpt is great, and the tailoring is like decent at best, right? Mm-hmm. So I think this is where they can improve the figure, and I hope they do before it actually releases, because I've said from the beginning, with the entrance of in-art, with Hot Toys being at the top of their game right now, these third-party companies have to adapt or die. Because people have less budget than ever. We're in a recession, right? People have less budget than ever to buy things. Hot Toys is producing bangers. In-art's coming into the game, charging a lot, and producing really quality figures. Just there's some other issues there with with batches and whatever. But as far as the quality they're producing, it's great. So there's more options than ever and more good options. And third party, they've been up to the task, man. What Lim Toys has been making, Game Toys, Toys Era, like there are these companies that are stepping up. And they're saying, you know what, we're not going away, and we're going to give seamless forearms, and we're going to give die-cast weapons and whatever, right? And, real leather. And that's the kind of stuff that third party has to do to stay afloat.
Well, and again, it made me compare this head sculpt even to the Hot Toys one, which is a licensed company. Like, they might not care right now, but they will start to care if eventually third-party companies become licensed companies themselves and start to erode their profit. And I don't want to see a company like Hot Toys then have to backpedal and be like, oh, so sorry, just joking. Here's another version of Ant-Man with a better head sculpt or whatever, retrospectively. Like, do it now to stay competitive, or watch the competition eventually slowly take over.
Yep. Yeah, it's true. Well, guys, let us know in the comments below whether you're picking up that Joel from Toys Era. Really excited to see anyone's thoughts, if anyone cares but me, but I'm really excited. I want to see the Mars toys, though, and I'm going to keep my eye out before I pre-order. But like I said, if you want to do it, go for it. I want to ask the question here. The 2023 Marvel slate for collectibles. I'm going to pull up a little brief Google Doc that I created today, because I was thinking, like, what can I get excited about this year, right? What can I get excited about for Marvel? So as far as I'm aware, this is what IGN and other news sources were telling me. This is what's coming from Marvel this year as far as shows and as far as films, right? So we got Secret Invasion coming spring 2023. I'm still not sure if they have a release date. I don't remember. They showed the trailer recently, right? We have Guardians. We know that's coming in May. Supposedly that's projecting, I was watching John Cambia today, and supposedly that's projecting for a pretty big opening. Like, people are pretty excited about Guardians 3. Rightly so. It's probably the last Guardians film with this lineup. It's probably the last James Gunn film for Guardians. We'll see. But Loki Season 2, which everyone knows I'm very excited about, because I really like Season 1. Really excited to see that. We got the Marvels, which we saw a trailer for. Saw a trailer for the Marvels. Then there's an X-Men 97 reboot animated show, which I actually had no idea existed. I didn't know really what it was about. Maybe they'll produce some figures from it like they did What If. I don't know, right? But it's supposedly that's coming as well, right? So if we're thinking about what collecting is going to look like this year for Marvel properties, we've not seen these shows yet and these films, but is there a lot here that would get you excited to collect? And that's when I looked at this list, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this, right? I've not seen these yet. Maybe these could be bangers, right? But just looking at the list, I don't know that I look at this and say, man, I'm going to collect a lot of Marvel this year, right? And Keco, let me ask you, what do you think? How concerning is this, if at all, for the 2023 slate for Marvel? Do you see anything on this list, like just at face value, that you could really say, I'm going to collect a line or a couple of figures here? What do you think?
It's hard to believe that next week, it'll be 4 years since Endgame finished. 4 years.
Yeah.
And I know that because it's our anniversary. That's why.
See?
So with that being said, do I get a hand? Do I get an applause for that?
Yeah, you get an applause.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Marriage is great,
Decent.
people. Okay, so does this not include the Sony stuff? Because
Does not include the
across the
Sony stuff.
Spider-Verse,
Because if you wanted to, because Spider-Verse 2, obviously you could include
that'll be
that,
big,
right? And there was also, I think, Craven, right? So,
right?
which I've heard,
And
suppose that was
there's
on the
Madam
list.
Web.
Right. So, but I'm talking about just MCU stuff, really.
Okay.
So, but if you
Yeah,
want to,
so
if you want to
this,
count Spider-Verse, go for it. Yeah.
well, just because I know that they made Spider-Verse figures originally, the
Sure.
two Miles and Gwen, and they'll probably do more of those. But as you know, I don't have those Spider-Verse figures. I have Gwen just because I love Gwen, but I don't have that Spider. So that doesn't do anything for me. But this lineup is very, very concerning for me, mainly because everyone's like, well, you've seen what they've done with, B-list characters, and they've done great things, and they've spun shit into gold. This isn't looking very exciting. If I think Guardians, because the Guardians movie's over good, and I don't think Gunn wants his reputation completely destroyed, on his final film, especially with him going over to DC. The last thing you want is to carry that stank over with you. So I think that we're looking pretty good on Guardians, but who knows how the reception's going to be with Loki 2, because I know I've even told you I wasn't the biggest fan of Loki 1. What role is John Majors going to play moving forward? That's going to play into a lot of these things. And I mean, I'm looking at this right here, and it has no issue of everyone's like, well, just let the girls be the girls and have fun with these shows. But think about the tone that Winter Soldier set. Where are those movies? That's what I think got people hyped, because it was grounded, and it has nothing to do with the fact of, well, this is cosmic versus street level, or I think we've talked about that before, because this
Right.
naturally is, this is the multiverse saga thing. It's going to be weirder, but going back to the stakes of Winter Soldier and going back to Civil War, and there was a lot going on that was very deep, and they've pivoted away from that 100%, to where you get things like Love and Thunder, and everyone's like, well, they've learned their lesson from that. Did they? Because I don't think they have, because if you looked at this trailer for the Marvels, all it is jokes, and everyone's like, oh, this looks like fun. I didn't get into the MCU because it was fun. I got into it because, wow, there's some really good storytelling being done with some really cool characters. And this just isn't for me. And it has nothing to do with the fact, well, it's a bunch of girls and all. I don't care, because I love Wanda. I love Black Widow. I love all those things. I don't have any issue with that. It's the tone that they set. I don't want to sit there and just giggle the whole time. That's why I think Guardians is going to do well, is because there's a lot at stake. Loss is in play. It shows people crying in the trailer specifically and screaming. People want to see that. That's anguish. I like that. So I think it may be on its last legs, honestly. We've talked about how the Infinity Saga, when Tony snapped, that was the end of the MCU. And right now, they're not proving me wrong. Moon Knight was very underwhelming. Loki 1, very underwhelming. Ant-Man, good-ish, but very underwhelming for that being the kickoff to Phase 5. Not much you could do with Black Panther 2 with Chadwick being gone, but they still wasted a lot of opportunities, and I'm just like shaking my head. And I've seen the stuff for Secret Invasion, and it looks like it's got potential because it looks dark and gritty. They have to keep that tone. I would love an Emilia Clarke character, obviously, figure. I can't wait for that. I would love a good Skrull if they do that right. But everything else on here, I mean, no one's going to do anything with like the X-Men 97. I mean, that's a good bunch of nostalgia. It just reminds me of like NECA when they released all the, the old Turtles from, the Ninja Turtles back. That's kind of what I feel like with that. So I'm a little concerned, to say the least. I know I rambled, and that happens when you let me off a week.
It's okay, bro. You had a lot of thoughts to get out there, so it's totally fine. Well, I'm with you overall, Keco. Like, I do feel like I'm a little concerned for this Marvel slate, but I do really enjoy season 1 of Loki. So that's probably the one. It might be the one Disney Plus show besides Mando that I watched more than once. I think I watched Loki season 1 twice. So I really, really enjoyed it. And I would watch it again, honestly, because I really liked it. Didn't love everything they did with Loki's character, but I did enjoy it overall. But Ben, what do you think? Looking at this slate here, obviously, like Keco said, we didn't include the Sony stuff. We're just talking about MCU for the moment. How concerned are you with what's coming for Marvel this year?
I don't feel concern, but I don't feel like I care as much as I once did. I think that's part of the issue. I think I've let myself have lower expectations moving forward. Because I do think it peaked in Endgame, and that's hard to get back to, and especially with group criticism, kind of like we were talking about earlier about the one commenter, still liking the Mando season, even though a lot of us don't. As a community, um, we often have a really loud voice when we're not feeling something. Even if there's some really good gems in the batch, overall it still felt kind of like it stunk a little bit. And I think movies like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I think it is going to be a good movie. I think, kind of like Kiko said, there's going to be some emotional bits. There's going to be likely some characters who die. That might be those definitive characters in our collections at that point. If this is the last time we get to see a Rocket or a Drax or some of those might be the figures that you might still see the movie and be like, I still want that as a 6 scale figure because that's the last time I got to enjoy that character on the screen. I don't know enough about Secret Invasion from the comics. It's not a storyline that I ever visited in comics, so that's not one that I'm like super excited about. But that might be okay because I'm going in with really no expectations. I don't know if it will be good or bad or lackluster or any of the things, so I'm just going to try and go into it with as open of a mind as possible. And if I like it and if it sticks with me, I'll buy from it. If it doesn't, I guess it's just another one that kind of bites the dust. I think as a community of collectors, we have like really high hopes that these are going to be really impactful shows and movies because we want to continue collecting. Like, so when they're not giving us that emotional feels, yeah, it's kind of just like it's hard to look forward to other things, and we start looking to other properties to try and fill that void. With James Gunn going over to DC, I'm now more excited to see what happens with DC going forward because I liked shows like Peacemaker, but Peacemaker was a good example of me not really caring about the character at all, not going into that show with very like any expectation. In fact, I actually had pretty low expectation for that show. And it ended up blowing me away. I loved that show, and I immediately pre-ordered that Peacemaker figure when it came out because I was stoked about the property. So for me here on this list, I don't feel necessarily concern. I just feel kind of neutral. I feel a little bit numb to it lately. There's just been so much content over the years through television and through Disney that it feels like they're focusing less on giving us the really quality bangers like the Winter Soldier and some of those old show or movies, and in favor of quantity, not necessarily quality, and that sucks. I think the other thing is that it's just fatigue as well at this point. I think if there had been some time in between, unlike what I was saying with Mando earlier, where that length of time between Mando seasons created a little bit of hype, but then they still didn't give us what we wanted. If there was going to be some time in between some of this content, but then it was good, I think that would actually be a good thing. But because we keep getting like all the content so consistently, it's starting to becoming fatiguing. The downfall of a shared universe is if you decide to skip some of this content because it just doesn't necessarily jive with you, you do miss some essential story beats that you might want to be part of. So you end up having to watch movies you don't care about or shows you don't care about to make sure you're still kind of on the leading edge of information, which is challenging. I liked Loki
Yeah.
season 2. I liked Kang as a character. I didn't love Quantumania. So there's elements of that I'm like, I want a Kang figure, but I hope they do him better justice going forward in some of this other content. Because otherwise, like that he kind of peaked for me in that movie for about 10 minutes and that's it. I've wanted a Nick Fury for a while. I would get a Nick Fury in my collection. I think that, like, I've always been a Sam Jackson fan, so I think that would be a cool figure to get. Mondo Toys made a ton of the classic X-Men figure line, and some of those figures were really, really cool, but because they were based on an animated style, they were jointed and looked very much like larger scale toys, kind of like Kiko referenced earlier. It would be, as much as I'm excited to see what they might do with a reboot of that. Um, I'm a huge X-Men 97 fan. So I also come like, oh, like please don't hurt it, please don't hurt the memory that I have for it, whether that's through the content or the collectibles that come from it. That would be, I think, my only real concern out of the list is don't
I
hurt
love that.
my
Don't hurt the
nostalgia.
memory. I love
Don't
that.
hurt the memory. For sure.
Yep. Yeah, that's understandable. I mean, because we got, hey, Guardians 3 may change everything. And I know Kiko and I disagree on this one, but, you know, we do have No Way Home and we have Shang-Chi from the newest phases, right? So Shang-Chi, you know, I absolutely love. I'm obviously a super fan of that film. I just think it's phenomenal. And No Way Home, I really, really enjoyed a lot. I thought it was fantastic. I know Kiko messes with Riley and calls it a cotton candy film. So, but you know, but I do agree. You guys make some really, really good points about, you know, the tone, right? It's been pretty consistent now, falling into the sort of general Marvel fun, happy-go-lucky type of thing, right? But it was nice having those films like, you know, Winter Soldier and Infinity War. Infinity War has some joking here and there, but it's a very dark and serious film. And I think that's why most people think, I agree personally. I think Infinity War is the best film Marvel has ever done. Like I just think I think it's perfection. I think there's nothing wrong with it whatsoever. And when you look at it, dude, it's just it's a beautiful film. I think it's still probably my favorite film I've ever watched. Period. Like I just think Infinity War is perfection. But Endgame is like that too. I mean, not quite as, I don't think it's quite as good because it wastes more time. But I want to talk about that because, guys, the Marvel slate it's concerning to me. But that's why I think this leads into our next topic pretty effectively. Should collectors assemble? See what we did there? Assemble the Endgame line while they still can. Let's talk about this because we just talked about, because Ben, I know you mentioned something real quick. So, and I'll start with Kiko, but I want to address something Ben said real quick. But Ben, you said that maybe you're a little more excited for DC, but you don't feel as concerned, right, with Marvel. I think that statement alone is concerning because of how popular Marvel was, right? And how great Endgame and Infinity War and Winter Soldier, and like Kiko said, yeah, you still have the Thor, the Dark Worlds, and you have Ant-Man 2, and you have, in my opinion, Captain Marvel. I didn't quite love that much. It was okay, right? You have some films here and there that are not absolute home runs, but a lot of those first, like, you know, a lot of the films, at least in phase maybe 3, I think, and maybe phase 4, were pretty good, right? So I think that's concerning to me. And that's why I want to ask the question. You know, I think when we're looking back at this right now, I think we're not seeing it because us collectors, we don't always do great with seeing the long-term bigger picture, right? But when we think about what people are going to do and what people are going to want when they all sell out, if we're looking at Star Wars, right? Everyone wants the original trilogy shit. Everybody, like all the Star Wars fans. This is the original trilogy shit for Marvel, right? And that's, I think, the point that people need to consider here. So at the time, I wasn't collecting them, but people had informed me. Alec Guinness, Obi-Wan, figures like that were just sitting on Sideshow. Darkseid Anakin was sitting on Sideshow. Everyone said, oh, whatever, right? And Endgame has been overproduced. Infinity War was definitely overproduced. And they're all sitting and they're all discounted, right? But when those figures all sell out, and if Marvel doesn't pick up the pace here and start hitting their stride again, where's everyone going to want to go with their money? They're going to want Endgame shit, and they're going to want Infinity War stuff, and they're going to want their first 3 to 4 phases, right? So that's why I'm asking the question. And I want to ask you, Kiko, first. Should collectors really assemble the Endgame line while they still can? Like, I'm not saying go out and destroy your budget, but I'm saying if you love Endgame and you're not crazy about this new phase of Marvel, these prices might go up later. I don't want to create FOMO and hysteria. I'm just trying to project here a little bit in terms of what I think might happen when these figures are no longer available. Kiko, what do you think about this? Is this going to be a line to reckon with?
I'm going to say no, simply because I think there are just too many of them. This came out at a time that this is when most people got into Hot Toys. So they got into it right around the 2000. There's Drago.
Drago, what is the time? What's the time? Oh, we're an hour and 27 minutes in.
126.
Yeah.
So he always throws my concentration off. But I think there's just too many of them because this is a time where people had extra money, you know, from stimulus checks, things like that. And everyone just went and it's like, oh, what is this? I'm sitting at home. I have nothing to do. I want to check out these Hot Toys. These are cool. People got into toy photography as something to do, you know, during the pandemic. People got these and they just made a lot of them. And that's what I worry about. But going back to the old, I think I've said 1977 Kenner Star Wars figures like 15 times on this show already, but they made a lot of those too, because, you know, I think they made billions of them at one point, and now some of those are extremely highly collectible. Will these be the definitive versions? I don't know, because I don't know if people want a fat Thor when you could have, a better version. Maybe they want the Infinity version. I don't know if people want the Iron Spider because it's not the best figure overall. They definitely have some really good ones. Endgame Cap is the best cap that you can get, for that moment. I think the Battle Damage 85 is certainly a special one. But I mean, Iron Patriot, I don't think anyone's going to be running to grab that one. Rescue is like $5 now. There's just a lot of them out there, and there's a lot, not just only in quantity, but in the offerings. There's so many characters to put in there, and it's the culmination of all the movies. So if you didn't really, it's like, Loki's not my character, then you probably passed on him. Or maybe you're like, Captain America's not my character, and you passed on him. But I think at this point, if you've wanted the in-game characters, you probably have them already, honestly. So I don't think that this is going to turn into like a, oh man, remember when moment. People will look back at these moments and these movies being the best, but I don't think anyone's going to run back to say, oh, these are the figures I have.
Interesting. And we got a really good comment from Hodor, actually. Good to see you, Hodor. I feel like Hot Toys wouldn't have a problem with just re-releasing the Endgame figures at a certain point if Marvel is running out of steam. Could be. So Ben, what do you think about the Endgame line? Should people, if they haven't already, and Keco, I get what you're saying. I do agree. I'm not saying that maybe the Iron Patriot and figures like that, but when I'm talking about like the cherished figures, the Battle Damage Mark 85. For anyone who's still sleeping on that figure is. Maybe we have a topic about this. I don't know if we're going to have time, but I'm talking about Iron Man figures. That one's pretty tough to beat. If you're talking about one Captain America, this is going to be the Captain America that people go for when it sells out. But Ben, what do you think? Should collectors assemble the Endgame line while they still can, or should they just bide their time?
So I don't love the question, to be honest, because of how it's phrased. And
let's do it, dude. Tell me why.
So normally I'm pretty positive, but I feel like it has like Keco said it well, and it resonated with me. If you wanted these, sure, get them now while you still can, kind of based on like how you've said it, because they are a good price, and there are so many of them that this is a good time to fill up the collection a little bit, because you can get some kind of 2-for-1s in there. On the other hand, what reason do you collect for? Do you collect because you love the film, or do you collect because you're looking to hopefully have some level of investment and maybe make some money down the line, stuff like that? I don't collect to make money off of my figures. And so while I agree with you that these figures may kind of go through an influx of pricing over time, and once they're gone, they may be chase figures. That's the way she goes. That's the whole point of FOMO, is that like once they're gone, somebody out there is going to be like, I wish I'd got that Mark 85, even though it sat for so long. But like, did you really want it, or are you only kind of wanting it because now you can't get it? So think about all of the Hot Toys that have ever been released, and think about how packed people's collections would be if they just bought figures because they still could, not because they actually want those characters represented in their collections. If somebody comes into your collection room and goes, wow, you really like the Mark 85? And you go, no, I'm actually a DC fan. I just bought it while I still could. Like, how does that represent your collection or who you are as a person?
That's a great point.
And Hot Toys and 6-scale collecting in general in the last couple of years has been so volatile when it comes to resaleability that it's not even guaranteed that you would get your money back down the line. You may still end up taking a loss if you just buy it because you think it could be a future investment. You also have to pay to store these things. If you keep them in the box, what are you going to get, like a storage unit so that you can keep them stored? If you're not going to enjoy them, don't waste your money. Because there'll be another show or movie or something at some point, or even a reissue of an old franchise like the RoboCop or Daredevil, or like some of these other characters that like resonate with you more, that you're going to be like, oh, I wish I had $500 for that figure now. But because you'd spent all the money on Endgame, then you have to go through that cycle of trying to unload things and get your money back. And it's a hassle if it doesn't mean something to you. So Should you buy them while you still can? Yes, only if you actually want them in your collection. If you don't, then
Right.
skip on it. Like, because there'll be other properties that are going to fulfill you as a person, I think, more when you walk into your collection room. That is way more important than the deal that's available. I know you want to talk about your Thanos, and that's why I'm poking at you a little bit.
No, dude, it's totally fine
because you bought that thing on a good deal, and then you didn't really like it.
And then I can buy it on the same deal if I want.
And now you're thinking about buying it again, but for
which I'm not going
reason?
to. I'm not going to.
I mean, do it. I no judgment, but
I'm not going to.
Only do it if you're like, I need it.
Part of the reason too, Ben, that I sold it originally is because at the time I had the Iron Studios Thanos, the quarter scale statue, and that thing was really, really great. And I compared it to the Hot Toys Battle Damage figure, and I was like, it's just not. It wasn't a fair comparison, right? Because you're talking about a $1,200 statue versus a $250, $300 figure for what it was going for. But so, Ben, you make a lot of really good points, and there's something I want to address in there too. So one of the things, and Keco knows this probably better than anyone. So yes, I wholeheartedly agree with you that really at the end of the day, you should be collecting because you're buying something that you want, right? So I would never really advocate for someone to go buy something that doesn't mean anything to them. So I would never say like, go buy the Endgame figures just because I think they might be grails later if you don't give a shit about Endgame. But if you do care about Endgame and you do love the character and you were going to get this anyway, but you're just waiting for a heavy discount, that's happening obviously. But and eventually I think these could become really sought after figures. And really at the end of the day, my point being that I think these figures are going to be pretty special. And I do think that, that these figures are going to be something that people are going to want down the line. And what we really need to point out too, Ben, is that exclusivity is more important to people than I think they're willing to admit. Because if we're being realistic about the situation, how many people really wanted that D100 Iron Man?
Yeah, I was going to say that.
How many people really wanted that stealth suit cap that already existed, that they gave another one for? Of course, they gave the Singe Gauntlet, which is really cool. But how many people really wanted the Mark 47 when it was $1,200 and people just bought it because they wanted something exclusive? How many people really want Darkseid Anakin today, but they bought it anyway because it's exclusive and it's rare, right? It's not exclusive, but it's rare-ish, right? So I think us as collectors, sometimes we all do this. I think we're not as willing to admit that exclusivity it's not the primary factor. To some it is, but it is a motivating factor that all of us think about. But we never want to admit it because it's kind of like taboo to say, Keco doesn't give a shit. But other people will say, I don't like exclusivity, blah, blah. And I don't really care either. Like, I just want the figure that I like. And I get that. But having something exclusive is kind of cool. And I think it's okay to say that. I think it's okay to say, you have something that, that's rare. Like the Shore Trooper originally. Everyone was going crazy for that thing. And then they reissue it and nobody wants it. So it's a very interesting thing. But if they didn't reissue it, everyone wanted it. Everyone would be like, well, I have a Shore Trooper, right? And Yondu now, if they reissued Yondu, I wonder how many people would actually go buy Yondu, right?
Everybody said Nebula was going to be a chase figure, that it was going to go rare, and then she sat for the longest.
And that's what I think is super fascinating about this. It's just a human. It goes far beyond collecting, but I'm with you, Ben. I do agree with you overall, but I just think exclusivity matters. So when this Iron Man is probably the #1 Marvel figure maybe ever made, and then it's gone, and people will be like, "Oh man, I missed out on Iron Man." Not real, unless you just started collecting, right?
I mean,
like, you had so many
right.
opportunities to get this.
Sorry to cut you off, buddy. You're so right. But like what I've even learned recently from collecting with some of my other collector friends, I don't want to name drop, but I collect with one guy who kept all of his figures pristine in the box. He didn't display his Hot Toys. He keeps them all pristine. Yeah. And now this person is going through this absolute roller coaster of emotion because what he thought he felt like he had in his collection is starting to slowly kind of slip and lose the value that it had accumulated, because now we're seeing consistent reissues of the same things. And it's pulled him out of the hobby. It's made him feel like, what's the point? I don't want to do it anymore. I'm going to switch to something else that has more actual, like, resounding collectability, numbered collections, statues, things that are like, if they make it again, they have to change it because there was only 900 of these ever made or 300 of these ever made. The D100 is a great example for Hot Toys because, I feel like a lot of people were like, why would I want that? Until we were like, oh wait, there's only 1,500 worldwide. Okay, well, well maybe. But even that figure wasn't numbered. Like, there's no
Right.
number on it. So like they say there's 1,500 worldwide, but if are we gonna get another Churrogate Spider-Man where
Churrogate.
where we get the D100 figure in a week from now, he just
Right.
doesn't have that fancy looking base behind him anymore, and they're like, "Ha, just kidding. There's 15,000 of these ones, but the collector's edition is just that cardboard base and behind her plastic, whatever it is." Like, I don't think Hot Toys should be considered as collectible as they once were, because that's not even necessarily the way they market themselves anymore.
Sure.
If they want to be exclusive like that, if they want this figure to hold its true value, they should never give us this again. But I wouldn't put it past them for the Endgame 10-year anniversary 10 years from now for it to be like, surprise, we knew everybody wanted this figure because they passed on it when it was half price back in the day. Here it is for you again with another half accessory and call it a day. So that sounds like a negative perspective. I love Hot Toys and I think I'll collect Hot Toys forever. But as much as I like exclusivity, my DX11 Joker that I spent $1,000 for now isn't worth anywhere close to that because of other properties that are out, or if they make a version 3 from Hot Toys and suddenly that just doesn't have the same value it once did.
Yeah. And you're always right, Ben. They're always evolving and changing, and the figures get better and better. So yeah, it could very well happen. Maybe they say 5-year anniversary, right? They'll be like, there it is. There's Endgame shit again. So yeah, but I guess that would be like now, right? Because didn't Endgame come out in 2018, 2019?
Keco, or would you say Endgame 10-year anniversary is 6 years away?
Yeah, right.
2019 is what
2019. Right.
That's crazy.
That's crazy, bro.
6 years away.
When that happens
crazy.
and we're all still live streaming, we're gonna be like, "Damn, what happened?" We're gonna be like, "Yeah, it's pretty crazy."
And
But
I
anyway,
probably
guys,
still won't have my NR Joker.
yeah, you probably. I'll have my Module cases by then, but you won't have your Joker apparently. So, but guys, thanks so much. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below about that topic because that was a fun one. That was fun. That was great. So, guys, we got time for one more. I know we got to run after that. So. There's so many good things that we came up with here. There's one that I want to talk about, but I don't know. It'd just be like a fun topic. So I'll just save it maybe, or maybe if we have a couple minutes at the end, we'll talk about it. But I want to ask the question, the Ahsoka line. Is this going to produce gold? Because I want to share something real quick. I was gonna share this anyway as a separate topic, but it's fine. We'll just make it this one, right? So I'm going to zoom in a little bit here to get in to show kind of what Star Wars has on the docket for 2023. This is what I found on the Googs on the internets, and this is what is showing for Star Wars 2023. So really, if you're thinking about what is Hot Toys related, it's Ahsoka. That's pretty much it, right? Like these other ones, you got Young Jedi animated series and you got the Visions, which people really liked, but are we going to get figures from that? Questionable, highly debatable at best, right? So we're talking about the Ahsoka line. They're obviously teasing something pretty fun here and pretty exciting. And like Keco said, maybe with a serious tone. So Keco, I want to ask you, is this Ahsoka line going to produce gold? Because I'm assuming we're going to get our first Grand Admiral Thrawn figure, right? I would assume he's going to make an appearance. I already showed the back of his head in the trailer, right? So he's going to make an appearance. So similar to Kang, this might be it's not multiverse, but you're going to get different iterations of Thrawn, maybe slightly different outfit here and there. But this show is probably going to be your first taste of Thrawn and your first opportunity to figure of Thrawn. So you're going to get another Ahsoka, maybe one whose arms don't break. You're going to get other things in between, right? So Keco, what do you think? Are you excited about this Ahsoka show? And do you think this Ahsoka line could be something special?
It's only going to be special to you if Rebels was special to you. If you have never even seen that or don't really care, I'm sure you will have a connection with the characters just because they're cool in general. I mean, Sabine looks awesome. Hera looks awesome. We saw Zeb and Mando looks awesome. So from that perspective, if you don't care for Rebels, then you might fall in love with the figures later. But if you do like Clone Wars, you do like Rebels, you do like Ahsoka, and you are a Thrawn simp like me, then yes. I mean, I actually put that on my 2023 predictions list on my other podcast that Thrawn will be a Hot Toy release or at least an announcement in 2023, because absolutely, that is one of the biggest characters in Star Wars because of Zahn's creation back with Heir to the Empire. And especially when they go ahead, and this is what gives me a little bit of hope. I know I've crapped all over Star Wars all day today because Star Wars is the thing I love the most. I really do. You know that, Will. And that's why I'm passionate about it, because the things you care about, you want it to turn out good, and you don't just accept things because, oh yeah, you want it to look good. So the dark tone to this looks good. I'm hoping they do it right. But when they said Thrawn is returned as heir to the Empire, I mean, that was so cool to me. And everyone's like, oh, that's just pandering. I was like, well, it got me going because I'm excited about it, because it name dropped Zahn's book and what they're doing. And of course, I've seen all the cam footage of the front of Thrawn that they showed at Celebration, and I can't wait to see him. I mean, they got Lars Mikkelsen back, as you know, and at the very, very end of the day, they're going to make Sabine because she's a Mandalorian. They're going to make Ahsoka because there you go. And they're going to make Thrawn. At the very worst, they're going to make those. Those are my predictions. I know that are going to happen. And I love, the idea of these dark side force users that we don't know a lot about. There he is. And so, yeah, I think there's going to be some really special things, especially if you can do Zeb right. And I mean, it's very possible that Sabine could become my Wanda, essentially, that I just obsess over and over about. So there you go. Excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited too, man, especially the way you're hyping it up. But Ben, what do you think about the Ahsoka line? Do you think it could produce some gold here? Because, I mean, we got Thrawn, we got some new exciting orange lightsaber dark side users. So you got some pretty cool stuff there. There were also some like trooper type figures that you could see here that I think are pretty unique looking. Those are pretty cool and could make some really cool figures, honestly. Ben, what do you think? Could this be another Mando line, something exciting here? What do you think?
I would say yes, but the content has to be there. I think what we've learned from Mando season 3 is even if you put a bunch of cool shit in a show, if it doesn't go together, if it doesn't flow, if it doesn't feel like it's purposeful, if it just kind of is a jumble and it doesn't stick, like anything that doesn't stick the landing, it's going to be harder to then produce gold, like figure collectible stuff from. Will there be characters that people definitely want for their collection, even if they hate the show? Yeah, probably. Because like She-Hulk is a great example of that. A lot of people really didn't like She-Hulk, but we're still excited to get a She-Hulk in their collection, or even a ketchup and mustard Daredevil, or like, like it's possible to still create a gold figure line from the show. Yes, 100%. But the show, I still think, has to stick the landing. And I think with the fact that people are feeling a little fatigued from Mando season 3, some of it's been great, some of it's been kind of, lackluster here and there. It makes me feel like I need to go into this show with a lower level of expectation. But I did that with Andor, and I really enjoyed Andor. I went in not really expecting to like it all that much, and I really liked it. I thought it was different. It had different vibes. I really like Rosario Dawson as an actress, and from everything I've seen of her as just a person, she seems like a really good person. So I want her to win. I want her to crush it and to be the next big thing for Star Wars. I think Rebels homework is important. Kind of like Keco said, if you've connected with Rebels, then you'll probably like it even more because you already are familiar with the content. I haven't watched Rebels. I'm trying to get through the rest of Clone Wars right now, which the first 2 seasons for me were a little bit difficult to get through. I'm now into the 3rd season. I'm starting to like it more. I'm starting to see the appeal more, which I don't know, that might be sinful to say because I know some people absolutely love Clone Wars. And I've heard that Rebels is even better. So I'm excited to kind of get through Clone Wars, get to Rebels, get connected to these characters before the show. I'm kind of trying to see it as a bit of like exciting homework to do so that I'm like, yes, okay, they're here. Perfect. That's awesome. That's what will get my juices flowing and me want to collect from the line. But if it doesn't connect with me, I probably wouldn't buy it. I didn't get the Ahsoka that's already been released because even though I thought she had some cool scenes with Grogu and stuff, and even in that forest scene where we first get to see her, kicking ass with the white lightsabers and stuff, like, I didn't feel like I needed to collect from that specific scene. I'm waiting to see if I'd want to collect her from the show itself. So we'll see, but I think that's got the possibility anyways. The possibilities are there.
I think the trailers got me excited though. So I'm really excited to see how this is going to shake out. And I think this looks dope. So I'm excited to see what the line's going to be. Thrawn could be interesting for all of us. That could be one that's hard to pass on. So
yeah,
we're going to see.
Jose Hermana says she's wearing the same outfit in the show, though. I mean, from what we've seen in the trailer so far. But I mean, Star Wars like traditionally makes toys, right? I mean, like there's a lot that
Absolutely.
comes from it. That's why I was so surprised we haven't seen another Mando version yet. Like,
Yeah,
how is
dude.
that even like that's crazy. I'm kind of happy about it because it saves the wallet.
Right. Absolutely, bro.
But I do think we'll see more Ahsokas for sure.
Yeah, I think so too, bro. Well, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below. What you think about the Ahsoka show and the Ahsoka line coming up. Are you excited? Are you not? Let us know your thoughts down below. That said, guys, we are going to wrap it there. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your Friday evening. Before we do that, let's thank this amazing Avengers level panel, Mr. Keco Collects. I want to start with you, sir. Thank you so much for being my amazing co-host as always, sir. Is there anything coming up exciting on the channel? I know you just released a banger video that people need to watch.
Correct. So once again, Will, I'm glad I could be back after a week. I was really frustrated that I wasn't able to be with you last week because there were so many topics that I wanted to be passionate about. But
I know.
hopefully I wasn't too negative today. Everyone, thank you for letting me vent and just share things. But yeah, we had some good stuff going on. Dropped another reel of Ultron this week, sitting at like 20,000 on that. Dropped a new video last night. This is where we need to have some action items. All right. So after a month, I've returned. Somehow Kevin's returned back to the life or to the channel. But I went back and made another video because I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with the collection. So
Right.
I built my own do-it-yourself case, and I need people's opinion on it. So please go watch the video. It is on my channel. It is linked in my bio on Instagram. So let me know. And right now it's performing and outpacing the collection room that has 50,000 views. So we'll see where it ends up. Because right now we're sitting at 2,000 in one day. So I'll take those numbers.
That is pretty exceptional, bro. People love displays, especially custom displays. So Keco, you should feel
people
proud,
have been
bro.
very, very communicative in it and just giving their opinions, sharing thoughts. And so I love the debate back and forth. So lots of engagement. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Well, guys, check out Keco on Instagram. Check him out on YouTube. Lots of great content over there. And yeah, thanks as always to Mr. Keco Collects. And of course, we got, last but not least, certainly not least, the Ben Thomas Show. Thank you so much, Ben, especially for joining last minute, bro. Appreciate you joining and your amazing thoughts as always, man. I love seeing you climb with the subscriber count, 1,000 to 1,500. What's coming up on the channel, man? What do you got going on over there that people can get excited about?
Yeah, so I've started a new Sunday live show. So if you guys like my take on things, the show is called Let's Get Nuts. It's on Sunday at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which I believe is 5 p.m. Pacific Time. I'll post it on my Instagram as well as on my channel, kind of week over week when the show is, and so you can kind of bookmark that if you want. It's been fun. Every week I have different guests on. Will's been part of the channel before. Keco, of course, you're always welcome. We get a lot of the Collecting Weekly boys over there as well, and Shane from 16 Figure Focus and all the gang. They tend to make their arrival on the show. So again, Let's Get Nuts every Sunday for live stream. And then I as I said, I picked up the Punisher today. So after the show, I'm gonna get him out of the box and enjoy it by myself for a little bit first, and then I'll probably take some pictures and do some reviews on it and give you guys my thoughts on that as well. In terms of where else you can find me, every Tuesday night I'm on the Collecting Weekly YouTube channel live show with the main show with the boys over there. Always a really fun time, so check that out. And then my buddy 16 Fix, whenever his wife is not available, she's lovely. He fits me in as his secondary co-host. I'm not nearly as good of a co-host as Gigi, but 16 Fix, he also just hit 1,000 subscribers. So go over there and check him out as well. Really, really good channel. He's got a She Said No podcast, which is absolutely hilarious and worth the watch. One last shout out. We have a collector here in the chat that just started his own YouTube channel as well, Austin Nicholas. It looks like yesterday he started his channel up. He's getting a lot of support from the community. He's a great guy, great person, awesome collection, and starting his own thing. And I can tell you from my own experience, setting up a YouTube channel is hard. It takes some guts to put yourself out there. You're always kind of expecting somebody to be like, that's the worst content I've ever seen, you should probably stop. So give Austin Nicholas a subscribe as well, especially if his content ends up being pretty good. And somebody mentioned in the chat there that they want to name their dog after me now, which I appreciate that.
That's a compliment, bro.
That is a compliment. So thank you very much. It's the Canadian side of me, maybe, that you guys are seeing. But I love y'all. Thanks for watching. And Will, thanks for having me back on the show, buddy. I look forward to the next one.
Happy to have you, bro. Happy to have you guys. So check out the Ben Thomas Show, of course, YouTube, Instagram, all that good stuff. And of course, Austin Nicholas. Yes, check out Austin. He's an awesome guy. I've chatted with him about fitness related stuff, been super helpful in collecting. The dude is super nice and genuine. So got to give a shout out to him on that one. So guys, check out Austin Nicholas's channel. And yeah, thanks so much, guys. I put out a Moduspace video. I got my DF 60s over here that I got from another collector in Maryland. So shout out to that collector. Thank you so much, bro. And yeah, those plenty of other views. I did reels. Guys, follow me on Instagram, will.foxification. Keco has been helping me, spread some news as far as my photos. I'm going to be posting a lot more Hot Toys and other figure photography over there that I think you guys might really enjoy. So that said, guys, check out the Instagram, will.foxification. And of course, plenty of content on here. Lots of cool stuff coming. Trust me, I have plans. I got some new gear and some equipment. Things are going to be improved around here, and there's going to be some exciting new things on the horizon. So thank you guys so much for watching. We will catch you in the next one. Peace out. See you later. Bye. Bye.